At 15, we had no mentors. We had nobody guiding us on the how to sell crack game. We put the dope in the seat. We rolling in. I was hooked on the game, but I was already looking for something bigger. I was gonna make a lot of money being a man. I'm a bodybuilding pimp. I'm gonna go out here and do this porn. But the porn money, to me, it wasn't enough. I should have stayed my ass at home, man.
Marcus interview, take one, some sticks.
My name is Marcus, a.k.a. Big Hurt. And my story jumps off in California. I grew up with my grandparents. My mom had me at a very young age. I think my mom, when she had me, she's roughly 14, so she's still living under her parents' roof. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. She was like a second mom to me. And my grandfather worked a lot. I never met my dad. My mom, she was young, but she was very nurturing. You know, she used to always read to me. She used to always spend a lot of time with me. I was very attached to my mom at a young age.
When Marcus was about 3 years old, he had a big wheel. And one day he packed his big wheel with lunch, put it in the back of it, and rode over to his friend's house that lived probably 4 or 5 blocks away, across a main neighborhood street. And when I went over there and got him, he said, well, I crossed at all the corners. Oh, my goodness.
Probably around the time I was 4 and a half, she met my younger brother and sister's dad. My stepdad got transferred to Treasure Island, which is the Bay Area, which is a military base. You didn't have any of the worries that you had in a regular community because on the base you had military police, so wasn't nobody selling drugs on the base, no violence. They regulated the base and you didn't have any of that bullshit going on. So it was a very safe environment.
Both of my parents were alcoholics. My dad was an old school military person where you get paid on the 1st and the 15th and then you party that whole weekend long. I saw what the alcohol did to my mom. I saw the decisions it made the adults around me make, and I just decided my children will never experience that because I was not gonna have that in my home. I had just had my daughter, and my husband started hanging around people that were doing drugs, drinking a lot, and those were just unacceptable to me. And so I told him, I sat him down and I said, you have 5 years to straighten up. And if you choose not to do this, then we'll have to come to another conclusion.
Throughout my stepdad's military career, he always smoked weed. You know, he always drank his Mad Dog 2020. He wasn't really concerned with advancing through the military levels. He was one of those guys who just kind of cruised. I
realized then that this wasn't going to be a good family experience if he didn't change. So I did a little investigating and found out that actually he had already been in trouble for utilizing drugs and alcohol on the base. He had already gone through a court-martial and was getting kicked out of the service. So that helped to solidify my decision to leave.
I couldn't stand my stepdad either, so moving away from him to me was a benefit, but at the same time, it was kind of frustrating as a kid to all of a sudden have to leave all your friends that you had built these relationships with and just move. And I knew that it was gonna be a lot of pressure on my mom because she had, 3 kids. It was a single mother with 3 kids. After the base, my grandfather found a house for us on the other side of North Highlands on Stevens Drive. And North Highlands is kind of spread out. A lot of retired military there, and one side is kind of like, quiet, laid back. Other side is kind of street. Well, the side we moved on was the side with the elements. And Stevens Drive was basically right up the street from the park where all the ex-penitentiary guys, the OGs, stayed there. So you just were around a lot of just, you know, negative elements, which I had never really been exposed to before. When we moved to Stevens Drive, it was 7th grade going into the 8th grade, so I was an 8th grader. It was kind of a culture shock being, you know, taken from the base to this particular street to live and to see all this stuff going on around me. Damien, he moved to North Highlands from the South area. So we met the summer of going from the 8th to 9th grade because he lived around the corner from me. Naturally, we kind of built a friendship because he had a single mom, my mom was a single mom, and both of us were in similar economic conditions.
Me and Marcus, we grew up together as young cats. He's one of my best friends. We just kind of like meshed, you know. We ended up brothers like really quick. He was a cool dude. I looked up to him. We was the same age, but I still looked up to him because he never wanted to back down from anything.
Two of the people who always been there, who never turned their back on me, was Damien and Moke. Moke at 16 years old, man, was like 230 pounds. He was repping like 315 for reps. So he was a fucking monster.
We've been partners since 7th grade. We've been doing this thing for a long time. I love him. He got love for me. He look out for me. I look out for him. And this is us.
Everybody back then was either known for athleticism or known to, you know, have hands. And what I mean by that is that they knew how to fight. And so those are like a couple of the big things that gave you a lot of credibility in our neighborhood. And he was one of the guys who knew how to fight, and he was athletic. So, you know, we looked up to him. Because out there, I mean, people would punk you. You know, if you were soft and you couldn't play basketball, you get bullied. So I learned how to fight.
I ran with kind of like the older guys. And so Marcus and them were like the little homies. And I just took a liking to him because he was always, you know, headstrong, always trying to get it done.
And everybody in our neighborhood, it was just that type of bond. If you're from Highlands, Blood or Crip, your family. Along with, you know, playing sports, you know, dressing became, you know, more in play. Wearing Felas, Deodorants, Troops. Troop was like the shit. I mean, LL Cool J wore Troop. MC Hammer wore Troop. I mean, basically, you had on Troop, you were gonna go get laid after school. Don't nobody wanna go to damn Payless, man. My mom bought me some Payless shoes one time. She brought me the Pro Wings. And they looked from a distance, they looked like Jordans. They had the little Pro Wing thing. But when you got up close, I remember somebody got up close and they said, "Hey man, you got the new Jordans on?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Them ain't no damn Jordans, man. Them goddamn Pro Wings, man." Man, they bagged on me all day. I almost wanted to walk around in socks. That's how bad I felt. That's what kind of led to us like, man, look, if I need to get some clothes or shoes, I'm gonna have to do what I gotta do. Because couldn't nobody afford to buy a $300 Troop jacket in the 80s. Not nobody in my school, not unless you were selling drugs.
Me and Marcus always wanted stuff. We wanted new kicks, you know, we wanted to hang out with chicks. We see the older kids with cars, and we both wanted that.
There was no jobs and nothing like that. We were 15 and it's hot, you know, we're trying to figure out something we can do. And it's like, my mom's working 2 jobs. So, I mean, it wasn't like we were in, you know, living in dire straits, but you know, I didn't have no money, and it would be nice to have a little bit of money to contribute. I'm like, man, I want to become a drug dealer, man. I want to sell drugs, man.
My mom just was like, kind of like beat it in me a little bit. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't go do this. You shouldn't do that. Marcus had a lot more freedom than I did. His mom worked a lot. He knew her schedule pretty much. My mom didn't work as much, so he was just like, I'm in, I'm in, I'm in.
So I decided to hit one of my friends up and see if he can give me some crack. It's not like there's a book on how to sell drugs. I lived on the dope street, Stevens Drive. Right down the street was a dope park. I used to drive my little bike down there when I wasn't supposed to. But I would see these guys out there lifting weights, drinking 40s, shooting dice, selling drugs. But they were all hustling and making money. And it's like, damn, I want to get some of this. So I took my little $20 and rode across to the other side of North Highlands and hooked up with my homeboy. I got $20 double up from him. I have $40 worth of crack rock now. I took that and put it in my handlebars, rode my little bike across town. I knew I didn't want to get caught up in the park with competing with all these other drug dealers, so I short stop when you cut off before they get down there, so you catch the smokers before they get to the park. And so I seen a car coming, and I gave the nod. They nodded. I said, oh, okay. And this little female pulled up. What you working with? And I had a little rocks, and the rocks, you kind of shake them up in your hand like they dice. They bounce around and shit, and like, $40. And I'm like, $40? Okay, cool. They gave me $40. I said, damn, I made that $40 in less than 8 minutes. So I took off again. Went back across town, took that 40, got a 40 double up. Booyah, I had $80 worth of rocks. I sold that in probably 30 minutes. By the end of the day, I had like maybe $300 in my pocket, and I'm like, damn, this right here is crazy. And I rode by my friend's house. I showed him what I had. I said, man, look at how much money I made today. He's like, what? He's like, man, can you double my little allowance up for me too? I'm like, yeah. So I took a little money, doubled it up, gave it back to him. It's like you got that fix for that quick money, and it was no turning back. He gets the drugs, we come back, task force rolls up on us. I'm like, oh shit, man. When we initially decided to get into the crack game, we just figured, hey, we buy some clothes, dress a little bit more fashionable, have some spending cash, and maybe turn it into something. But we didn't really know what to turn it into. We had no mentors. We had nobody guiding us on the how to sell crack game. You know what I mean? Wasn't no 10 crack commandments like Biggie talks about or none of that stuff. I see these drug dealers, they're getting big money, they're enjoying the life, they got girls, and for me, it's like in between studying and maintaining a 4.0 GPA, I could sell some drugs and still, do my thing. During the height of our crack slanging time, we were making a couple grand a week, which was, at that time, a lot of money. I had a little moped, and I used to build my little moped, ride around like a little player. That moped used to be me and my homeboys' dope getter. You ain't supposed to have two people on the moped. We both be on the moped like this. And we would be rolling in, we'd be rolling down the street, and we'd have our little money on us, and we'd go pick up drugs in that thing and be rolling back. And we put the dope in the seat. And the thing is, there's a lot of overpasses where we live at, so we'd be over overpasses. We winding out, going over the overpass and coming down. And I mean, it was like comical, man. I used to, hook up a lot of little females on that moped too. They get on the back, I'd be riding on that thing. I thought I was like, Evel Knievel or something on that thing, man. I was rolling that moped all summer. I had my Felas, I had my troops, I had a triple goose with the fur around it, leather coat, I was leather hats. I was dressing. I felt like, I was a young John Gotti or somebody, I was doing my thing.
We was the in crowd. We represented the whole neighborhood. So we had to be sharp. We had the 501 jeans back then, creased up. We had the Jordans, we had the Cons, the silk shirts, the snakeskin belts. We was dope boys.
I was dealing with grown men at 15. I would square up against guys who were 20 years my senior. You ain't taking nobody's dope, man. And my partner's like, yeah, man, if they try anything, we got that deuce too, we're gonna pop a cap in their ass. And that's how we carried it. And so we got, our respect from these guys. At that point, we were able to get a pass to sell drugs at the park. And this park was like In-N-Out Burger. Literally, it'd be you come in one way and you leave, and there would be cars lined up coming in there. I mean, this spot was ridiculous.
He had his own thing that he had going on. Like I said, my mom was strict. So it was a little different for me. My experience is a lot different than Marcus's was. He had access to the streets where I didn't have as much access. But I would see he would come with some new shoes. Oh, check out this. He's pulling out a box or something. Hey, check this out, dog. I'm like, dog, for real? You got like 17 shirts and stuff, and you got 4. Something's going on. And then in the back of my mind, I was like, his mama didn't buy him this stuff.
Selling drugs, when your mom doesn't know, you got to be real sneaky. You know, and there was a couple times we were eating dinner, and you know, dudes would come by the window and they'd be like, and I'm like, dude, what? My mom looked like, what is he doing? I'm like, get the hell up out of here, man. I'm eating, man. You know, but these dudes, when they want crack, they want their crack. My mom, she's not stupid. And so she kind of looked like, you know, are you selling drugs? I wasn't going to tell her myself, oh, I'm selling drugs, Mom. I sold crack and I bought all this stuff. So, you know, I just lied to her. I was hooked on the game. Moke was in the mix, and we were all hustling.
This life, it was more interesting. It was fun. It gave us a lot of stuff that we wasn't going to be able to get from our parents. They wasn't buying us no cars. They wasn't buying us no Gazelle glasses or no troop jackets.
I knew there was things bigger than what's around me. I used to watch Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous, Robin Leach.
It's another dazzling Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
And I watched that, I'm like, God, man, how can I live like those people? I want the big house, I want the nice cars, I want to travel. And so I always try to come up with ideas. And I came up with a lot of different things, but they all fell short. And the only thing that actually worked at the time was the drug game. Being in the drug game, doing things that, you know, you're not supposed to do, but you don't really have a rule book for, you make a lot of mistakes. You know that nothing good's happen at the park after dark. I'd walk to the park, you know, go down there, kicking it at the park. Homies pull up, you know, they're bumping, and they got the tinted windows, and what's up, man? We're about to go over here to the liquor store. You want to roll? I'm like, you know, yeah, man. Got in the car, they pulled off. And sure enough, soon when they went through the first stop sign, the task force was already watching the park, and they just swooped on us. Dude hit the gas, a little miniature high-speed chase. We're throwing crack out the window. I mean, I knew it was a stupid move to roll with 4 other black guys in the car, a 5th black guy. That's 5 too many. We finally get pulled over, and they make us get out the car, you know, cuffed us up, and they found 4 sacks of crack, you know, 5 people in the car, and, you know, they arrested all of us.
When he was arrested, I think I just kind of went into shock. I cried, I got sick. Marcus knows my thoughts about drugs and alcohol, so perhaps if he spends the night there, he'll learn a lesson. So I did not go get him that night. I went with my father, and we picked him up the next day.
I went to juvenile hall one night, didn't do shit.
I told him that he needed to realize the dangers of what he was doing. I said, you can die. You know, selling drugs, you can get shot. I said, anything can happen. I said, this is why we're where we're at right now, because of drugs. You have a one-parent household because of drugs. I said, if you continue to do this, you're jeopardizing your life and your freedom.
School started back up. I said, I'm not gonna sell drugs. I'm just gonna go to school for a little bit. But the lure of the money and the opportunity and the fact that the homie said, you know, I can get front of some drugs, I jumped back in it. So I'm doing it smart this time. I'm going to school during the day, you know, pick my little brother and sister up from school, cooking dinner for them, getting them in bed, and then I go sell drugs. I was done for the day when I get a call from a friend of mine. This guy was like, hey man, can you roll with me to go pick up some drugs? And I'm like, man, something told me not to go. But he's like, man, I don't want to go by myself, man. I don't want to get robbed by these dudes. So I'm like, man. So I rode with him, to the heights. He gets the drugs. We come back. I'm like, it's crazy. I'm like probably maybe 60 yards from my house. Task force rolls up on us. I'm like, oh shit, man. I went back to Sacramento. I get back, and it's on and cracking. We roll up. Run up in the house. I'm like, man, this is bad. I got a pocket full of rocks. He got drugs on him. They pull us over, search us, booyah, we're popped. I'm like, my brother and sister at home by themselves. I wasn't even supposed to be out. I was done for the day. Anyways, I get busted, go to juvenile hall. That's my second time. So this time I'm not just getting out. It's not overnight.
He just went up to the park, to my knowledge. Until later on, I went to the house, go check out my boy, and his mom's just like, Marcus is gone. I was like, wow, really? And that was one of the moments where I kind of felt like I lost my boy because I knew he was going to be down.
The judge decides to take me and put me in the custody of the state, and I have to do a program at the boys' ranch. So I end up staying in juvenile hall for 2 months, and then I go to the boys' ranch. I have to do a 3-month, 28-day program.
I went to sentencing, which was not a good thing. I just remember the end of the sentencing when the judge said, this is obviously a mom who has no control over her child, and he needs to become a ward of the state. And at that point, I, not really thinking, got up from the table and started yelling and screaming at him that he had no idea of what kind of mom I was, just because my son had chosen to get in trouble.
When I got locked up in juvenile hall and actually had to do the time, my mom came and she was crushed, man. She was like, she didn't know how to do it. It's hard for her, you know? It really hurt her to see me go down that path. It just goes to show that, you know, the streets sometimes are stronger than family ties, man. The streets were strong.
I did not like being searched. I did not like them going through my belongings as if I was a criminal. And I told him, I said, I'm just not going to do that to myself. You know, I worry with you in here. I'm fearful of you being in here. And I can't be a part of this. I couldn't do it.
I looked around and I'm like, I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. And I knew that I had made a mistake, but at the same time, I hadn't really fully grasped the seriousness of where I was at. It was hard for me at the time to accept, you know, why she couldn't come see me, but I had put myself in my own predicament. And so, you know, she had 2 other kids to take care of, and it was hard for her. I did my little time at juvenile hall, and then went to the boys' ranch, did my time there, got out. I go straight from the boys' ranch, straight to school. It was sophomore year. My mom had got engaged while I was gone, and she got married. The guy she married, he's in the Coast Guard, so he got transferred to that military base. And so the last day of school, we, you know, took the Greyhound down to Huntington Beach. It was a culture shock. Moving out there, nice neighborhood, no drugs, no blacks, very few. And I got my first job. My first job, I actually made a real check, was Chuck E. Cheese. I worked in the game room. I had to deal with all the little snotty kids with the balls and all that stuff, man. It just was a hot mess up in there. And that check was horrible. I looked at the paycheck, and the paycheck was equivalent to, for 2 weeks, is what I made in maybe 2-3 hours at Streetlick Park. So it was a sad change, but hey, it was my new reality. I graduated, I did good out there. I didn't get no trouble, worked a job, bought my first car. Upon graduation, my stepdad at the time, who she's married to now, Mark, got transferred to Boston. I just kind of like looked at my options, and I'm like, okay, I asked my grandparents if I can come back and live with them. Which was a bad move. I should have never went back to North Highlands, man. I went back to Sacramento, I get back, and it's on and cracking. I had already planned on going to college. I figured, hey, I'm gonna go to junior college, you know, try to figure out what I want to do with my life. I still didn't have any direction. You know, I'm still just kind of biding my time. I'm watching Wall Street with Gordon Gekko, and I'm still, you know, having dreams of being something, you know, bigger than what I am, but I don't know how to get there. I was trying to figure out little hustles I can do to make a little extra money in between school. But money was pretty tight. 2-3 weeks in Sacramento, us going to 18 over clubs, we was fighting. You get pulled into stuff because you got to get down. This is like fun for us, fighting. It was just, every weekend. If we were out somewhere, most likely we were going to get into a fight. During the time I was going to college, a guy we kind of knew from around the neighborhood, he had approached me and another friend with an idea to go rob this guy who was supposedly a big marijuana guy. He's supposed to have a bunch of weed, a bunch of money, and, it was supposed to be easy come up. He needed a ride to the location because he didn't have a car. They're supposed to roll in there, him and his little accomplice. I was gonna wait in the car. They were gonna go do their thing and be in and out within 3 minutes tops. We roll up. These two dummies get out the car, Mo and Larry, and run up in the house, and I'm sitting in the car. I'm looking at my watch, and I'm, thinking to myself, I'm like, damn, what the hell are they doing? We're in a neighborhood where you don't want to be parked outside. I'm like, man, this is bad. My real goal was I was gonna be a porn star.
I'm watching a porn video, and one of the dudes was black-ass Marcus.
I did not have words for that experience.
My best bet should have been just to stay in the car, but then again, I don't want to stay in the car and have a cop roll up. I just go into the house and see what the hell they're doing. They're running around like two dodo birds, no weed, no money. I'm like, dude, where is it at? Oh, we're still looking. Man, get your ass out of the house. You've been in here too long. One dude has a TV in his hand. I said, man, leave that. We ain't putting this stuff in my car, man. So we leave, we make it up out of there without any money and weed. I ended up dropping them off, and sure enough, 4 or 5 months later, this dummy who set the whole lick up gets arrested for stealing CDs out of a damn record store, spills the beans on everybody instead of riding his own beef, and I get swooped up along with everybody else. They drove me away in the cop car, and that was the last time I was on the streets for the next almost 3 years. I went to fire camp, and fire camp is where they send a lot of inmates to go and work the fire lines. California's a lot of fires, a big fire season. At fire camp, one of my passions was working out. I really got into working out hard. I'm like on top of my game. I'm looking like a mini version of the Hulk. We used to have this guy, this counselor in there. I think his name was Dirty Dave. He used to sneak the little, we call them fiend books. Sneak them in, you hide them and stuff. Every day I'm looking at these damn Penthouse and Hustler magazines, man, and I'm thinking like, man, if I can get into this game, this right here seems like it'd be a hell of a career move. My real goal, after sitting in prison from 18 to 21, was I was gonna be a porn star. And I was gonna make a lot of money being a So I was gonna go back to Huntington Beach. I was gonna move to Orange County. I heard about this magazine called the LA Weekly. The LA Weekly got all kind of stuff. It got girls in the back of there, call me, I'm hot. It had a little ad back there. Adult modeling. I said, oh shit, adult modeling. This is what I'm looking for right here. I'm a bodybuilding pimp. I'm gonna go out here and do this porn. I get down there, it's on Santa Monica, and you got this old dude with a beard. It's like, you're in good shape. Can you get hard on command? I said, hell yeah. Don't stop now. He turned around, boop, I was good. He's like, oh man, you about it. I said, yeah, I told you, man, I'm ready for this game. And that was it. A week later, get a call. Hey man, we got a scene for you. Somebody's seen your picture and they want to book you. I was nervous but excited at the same time. This is something I had been planning for the last 2 years, and it was now reality. I go down there to the valley. I walk up into the house. This is the real deal. I'm in Hollywood, man. And the director comes over. He says, you guys are gonna do a scene with this girl. We get ready, we do the scene. I'm beast mode. And it's supposed to be me and this dude double teaming this girl. But he can't get wood the whole time, which means more airtime for me. And I'm carrying the whole scene. The whole time it's work. I ain't never worked that hard for $100 in my life. You got a light over here, a light over here, so it's probably 100-something degrees in there. And you got a dude holding a boom mic close to your butt while you're trying to do your thing. You got a dude right here looking at your nutsack, a dude behind you, then you got another dude with a camera, and you got to maintain focus at all times. To be able to perform under those circumstances, you got to be the man. And from that day, I had a new career. I was Big Hurt, the porn star. That was my first scene, and from there I went on to do over 100 scenes in the industry. I mean, shit, I was a cowboy in one scene. I got to ride a horse, and it's crazy because that movie actually made it to the hood.
I'm watching a video, a porn video, and one of the dudes was black-ass Marcus.
I was just, I was putting in this movie, man, with this girl, man, and I seen your black ass popped up, man. I couldn't believe it, man. I was like, man, this is my dude right here.
I had to stop it and had to look, and I'm like, this is for real. And I think I called him and it was cracking up on the phone. I couldn't even get it out for like the first 5 minutes that I just seen him in this video, and I'm like, are you for real, man? And he was saying he was in the porn game. I laughed, because I'm just like, what? We supposed to be selling rocks, getting money. Who got you into that?
I found out that Marcus was doing porn through my father, who found out from my grandmother. Because apparently my grandmother had watched a film and saw Marcus in it. And I just said, what? How would Grandma be watching a movie like that? What in the world? I did not have words for that experience.
While in the industry, I got to go to Japan. That was crazy. And Japan has a fetish for the brothers. They like the brothers over there. Now, for you who aren't familiar with the brothers over there, they like that BBC. In Japan, man, I was like King Kong in that motherfucker. Man, I was over there doing my thing, man. Every day, there'd be like, for 5 days straight, there'd be like 4 or 5 different girls. I'm not trying to like, brag and but 10 days, 20 women, man, it's insane. My numbers went up quick. I mean, dude, I was living high. I don't think I even slept over there, man. I was drained, man. I came out of there, I must have lost like 10 pounds, man. At the height of my porn career, I was making a decent amount of money, but I was still looking for something else because the porn money to me, it wasn't enough. I mean, I've seen people around me making, millions, so I still was trying to get to that next level. So while working in the industry, I met this agent, Raja. He kind of knew that I had did time before and said, hey, man, I think we can put together a bank robbery. I'm like, bank robbery? Man, I never thought about robbing no bank. And so, I asked him, well, who else you got in mind? And that's when he introduced me to the third person, Charlie. So I'm like, oh, this dude, he looked like he's somebody that could pull the bank robbery off with me. And so I went along with it. I jump out the car, pull the ski mask down, run into the bank. I told everybody, get the on the ground. It's a bank robbery. People are scared to death. Charlie runs in behind me. He hits one of the people upside the head with the back of the gun. I'm like, this is all bad already. This is bad. We decided to lay down the actual date. We planned the bank robbery. Went and got the fatigues for the wear in the bank. Went and picked up the straps, a 9mm and an M1 carbine rifle. And it was all lined up to go. Leading up to the bank robbery, the timing was impeccable because I was already looking for something bigger. I guess it appeared to be a decent amount of money for a take in one day, 50 grand a piece. So I figured getting this extra bit of money, I had a connection with some ecstasy. I had a plug out of town. I was gonna turn around and do a move and basically start moving that out of town. And my whole goal was to make like $1 million and then invest it. The morning of the bank robbery, I get in the car, hit the 101 from West LA and head to Thousand Oaks. I'm in the back seat. The agent, Raja's driving. Charlie's in the passenger seat. He's got a 9mm. I got the M1 carbine. And so we pull up to the bank. The bank had just opened. It was early. I jump out the car, pull the ski mask down, run into the bank with the M1 carbine. Ask anybody who robbed the bank, the adrenaline is feel like your heart's gonna pop out through your ears. I told everybody, get the on the ground, lay the down. It's a bank robbery. People are scared to death. You're looking at the clock and you're thinking like, okay, how fast can I get in and get out of here? Charlie runs in behind me, starts shouting at the teller, give me the money, give me the money. And they don't move fast enough, so he hits one of the people upside the head with the back of the gun. He does that. I'm like, man, I look around, I'm like, this is all bad already, this is bad. As I look to my right, I see a sheriff in the corner of my eye with a raincoat and a shotgun. I'm like, oh shit, man, we're done. How the did he get here so quick? What are they doing here? And I seen that, I'm like, dude, let's get the up out of here. Come on, let's roll. We run outside the bank. I jump in the back seat. Charlie runs around, jumps in the front seat. He's got a bag full of money. We pull out, take the ski mask off. As we go to exit the bank, a cop is going this way. And as we pull out, they bump us, boom, right then, high-speed chase. So within a matter of a minute and 20 seconds, you had all this taking place. I'm like, it's over already? This is crazy. Why'd I even, man, you dumb mother, why'd I even leave the house this morning with you dudes, man? That's what I was thinking to myself. I should have stayed my ass at home, man. We pull out. The cops on our ass. Woo, we pull out. He speeds up. There's traffic and shit's morning traffic. We hit a corner. We pull up into this like parking lot area. The cop pulls in. He's got us cornered. We're facing him, he's facing us. He pulls out, opens his door, pulls his guns out. He tells us, get out the car, get out the car. We're sitting there. And I'm like, damn, man, this I'd never seen it play out like this in a movie. This ain't how shit plays out, it's not supposed to happen like this. So we're sitting there and Raja guns it, pop. By this point, there's multiple cop cars on the streets. They're deep. They're on it, weaving in and out of traffic all through Thousand Oaks. He's speeding, he's bumping cars. I mean, it's crazy, man. He gets out of traffic, gets on the freeway. We're sitting there looking at each other like, man, it's a wrap, man. It's just a matter of time now. There's nowhere you can go. Helicopter, cops everywhere, just like you see on the damn news. Out of nowhere, you see the spike strip. Boom, we hit the spike strip. We didn't even see to avoid that. Boom, you hear tires, boop, 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 boop. Tires slapping the car. He roll like that for as long as he can, and then the car, you hear it just on rims now. He drives a little bit, and he's like, man, I'm just gonna hit the wall, you guys jump out. He slides, hits the brakes, and eventually comes to a stop by the center divider.
We hearing Marcus is on TV like OJ, getting, chased by the police. And then when they say, I'm like, for what? It's like, these fools robbed the bank.
I thought it was foolish he was going after a federal bank. And I tell him, I said, you crazy, dog. What are we thinking?
You're like, man, shit. There's no way out of this stuff, man. We're hit. I jumped out the front passenger seat, over the center divider, ran across 5 lanes of traffic, shot up the overpass, ran across to the street onto the beach, and eventually they caught me on the boardwalk, officers with shotguns and automatic weapons, and they arrested me right there on the boardwalk.
watching that video footage was crazy. I'm like, he done lost his damn mind. The hell is he thinking? And then when they got out and tried to run, I was like, where was you going? Y'all on the freeway. Where was you going, man, after the high-speed chase? He's like, I don't know, man. He said, everything just went so fast. I was like, man, they had you, man.
A female attorney called, calling in behalf of Marcus because he had just gotten arrested for robbing a bank. I just hung up the phone. What was going through my mind at that time, I think I felt like I was having a heart attack.
When all that happened and went down, it hurt my feelings because, you know, why you gotta go that far? It bothered me a lot because that's my dude. You know, the porn was cool, you know, the drugs was cool, but now you talking federal. Like, are you ever gonna get out?
We get booked. Initially, it was a state case. Well, because it's FDIC bank, it actually gets turned over to the feds, so the feds pick it up. I didn't say shit. I assumed everybody said the same thing. Raja hired his own attorney. He started kind of acting funny, like, oh, man, I got to do what's best for me and my daughter. I'm like, dude, best for your daughter? You the one who came up with the bank robbery to begin with. So what the hell are you talking about? Charlie, he spilled the beans, man. He told him everything. Charlie went to trial, got 15 years. Raja, he got 6 years or 7 years. He ended up doing like 5.5. I got sentenced to 120 months in federal prison. It was a serious reality check. I got sent to Lompoc USP. While I was in federal prison, I didn't get visits from anybody. It just really kind of showed me that I needed to change the way I viewed life, and it just made me more determined to get out and be that much more successful. When I was released in 2008, I was released to a halfway house in South Central. I was just trying to find my way, try to figure out a way to find my own little gimmick. While in the feds, that's where I actually came up with the concept for Fresh Out, which was gonna be the reality show I want to do, where I interview guys who have been through the system. My whole thing was trying to show more of a positive side, but at the same time, just a reality of what really happens to the people after prison, whether good or bad. And so I hooked up with my business partner, Big Ant, and we shot our first episode in 2013.
Big Hurt, Fresh Out. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there, and some of it true, some of it not true. So I'm gonna let this man kind of give his story.
The premise was to be a deterrent, but also a positive influence to show these youngsters that prison is not to be glamorized. Our show is all about bringing the real, sharing experiences, you know, motivating you to make a positive change. And that's what we've been able to do. I mean, I have people from all over the world, you know, emailing us, you know, saying that, Big Hurt, man, I wish you were my dad. You know, I watch your show. I stopped using drugs. I went and got a job. I couldn't reach my kids, but I had them watch your series, and now they're listening to me. It's so moving to us because it means that we're making an impact.
I'm grateful that he's able to be an example to people. You know, I'm just excited that he's moving in the right direction. I appreciate him growing and learning from his experience.
You're gonna make your own choices, you're gonna make your own decisions, but if you can take something away from what we have to offer, hopefully it's something positive that will allow you to better yourself. And, you know, just through our message, you know, help these young people so that they can make better choices than I did.
He's got all the stories, like, I just die laughing when he talks to me about it. I'm like, you did that? Like, really, this is what you did with this chick?
Hey, that's like our fans. We got a whole following. Like Beyonce got the bees, we got the cheek busters.
The term busting cheeks, every time you said it out, die. Jesus.